Heat, 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 heat. Hello, namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. It's India versus Donald Trump. After unleashing the tariff war, the United States president is trying to police India's energy deals. He's targeting Russian oil. We'll tell you how New Delhi has responded. China, too, is defying United States pressure, refusing to give in to Trump's demand on Russian and Iranian oil. But Washington's response is remarkably different. We will tell you how. Meanwhile, Trump is doing exactly what you would expect from a Nobel Peace Laureate. He's deploying nuclear submarines near Russia. At home, his team is sounding more like a cult. Social media is comparing it to North Korea. Also in focus, the Iran-Pakistan reset. President Peshkan is in Islamabad. We will bring you the highlights of this visit. Amid the Gaza starvation crisis, Israel triggers fresh outrage with a minister visiting the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The United Kingdom wants over 100 crore rupees from India in parking fines. We will explain what's the $1.5 trillion plastics crisis that experts are warning about, and why are rhino horns being made radioactive, not by poachers, but by scientists. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is in India on a 5-day state visit. This is President Marcos's first visit to India since he assumed office in 2022. He will hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi tomorrow. The visit comes as the two countries launched their first joint patrol of the disputed South China Sea. Beijing claims nearly the entirety of the waterway. Cambodia and Thailand begin talks in Malaysia as a fragile ceasefire continues to hold a week after the two sides agreed on it. Defense officials from Cambodia and Thailand are holding these preliminary talks. A key ministerial-level meeting has been scheduled for Thursday. The ceasefire ended the worst fighting between the Southeast Asian neighbors in over a decade. A boat carrying mostly Ethiopian migrants sinks off Yemen, killing at least 76 people, while dozens more are missing. More than 30 people have been rescued. The accident occurred in southern Yemen. It is a frequent destination for boats smuggling African migrants to the Gulf states. 17 heat records broken in Japan today, after the country experienced its hottest ever June and July. The weather agency has warned of severe heat in the coming months as well. With poor rainfall and soaring heat, several dams are almost empty. This has led to fears of water shortage and a poor harvest. And India beat England by just 6 runs in a thrilling 5th test at the Oval. The win helped the Indian team square the test series. Fast bowler Mohammad Siraj was a star performer. This is India's narrowest winning margin in a test match. Tariffs give our country protection against those that would do us economic harm. Donald Trump is learning a new harsh lesson that the world is not his playground. Maybe he can bully his neighbors and allies, but he cannot bully major powers. And proving that is India. First, the United States president imposed tariffs on Indian goods, 25% tariffs despite trade talks. Then he introduced a Russia angle. Trump has finally read a newspaper. After 3 years, he has realized that India buys oil from Russia, and the revelation has shaken him. So his new obsession is this. Trump wants India to stop buying Russian oil. Just a short while back, he posted on social media. Listen to what he said. India is not only buying massive amounts of Russian oil, they are then, for much of the oil purchase, selling it in the open market for big profits. They don't care how many people in Ukraine are being killed by the Russian war machine. Because of this, I will be substantially raising the tariff paid by India to the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This is Trump's new obsession, attacking India for Russia's war. Last week, his Secretary of State chimed in. He called the oil purchases a point of irritation. Yesterday, Trump's top advisor spoke out too. Listen to what he said. So what he said very clearly is that it is not acceptable for India to continue financing this war by purchasing the oil from Russia. People will be shocked to learn that India is basically tied with China in purchasing Russian oil. That's an astonishing fact. India portrays itself as being one of our closest friends in the world, but they don't accept our products. For starters, it's not an astonishing fact. It's been all over the news since the war started. The Trump camp has just realized it. Secondly, it's not acceptable. Who asked for Trump's acceptance? The fact is, he is failing. Donald Trump promised to strike a ceasefire on his first day as president. Today is day 196. President Putin has played him like a fiddle. Instead of admitting that, Trump is deflecting. He's asking India to stop buying Russian oil. If not, he is threatening 100% secondary tariffs. Just one problem though. India is not playing Trump's game. Reports say there is no ban on Russian crude. This weekend, at least 3 vessels brought Russian crude to India, around 2.2 million barrels of it. So forget ban, forget scaling back. The Russian oil tap continues to be open. As for the ties with Moscow, New Delhi has made it stand clear. Our relationship is time-tested and steady. Our ties with any country, or all the ties that we have with various countries, they stand on their own merit, and they should not be seen from the prism of a third country. As far as India-Russia relations are concerned, we have a steady and time-tested partnership. Let's put this issue in context. Technically, there is no sanction on Russian oil. You're free to buy as much as you want. But the West has scaled back purchases. So naturally, Moscow started selling it elsewhere. Enter India. We have scooped up Russian oil at discounts. Before the war in Ukraine, Moscow made up just 2.5% of India's oil imports. Today, it's almost 35%. In fact, Russia is the top crude supplier to India. So Trump is asking a lot from India. He wants us to abandon our top oil supplier. Also, this demand is not isolated. It is part of a series of attacks against India. First, Trump claimed credit for the Pakistan ceasefire. Then, he slapped 25% tariffs on India. And now, he's adding the Russian angle. Chances are, the Indian leadership is losing patience. Prime Minister Modi struck a defiant tone over the weekend. It's like Trump is on a warpath, like he's spoiling for a confrontation with India. On this show, we've talked about his tariff concerns. So tonight, let's address the Russian oil. For starters, India is not doing anything illegal. If Trump has a problem with Russian oil, get it sanctioned. Move a resolution in the United Nations Security Council, get it passed, and then shut the tap. But Trump is not doing that. He's trying to curb a perfectly legal commercial exchange. Why? Because it does not suit him. I'm afraid that's not how the world works. Trump also says India doesn't care about the people killed in Ukraine. Is that why Prime Minister Modi visited Kiev personally? Is that why he consoled President Zelensky? Is that why he told President Putin that this is not the era for war? And please spare us the lectures on humanity. Trump and his buddies insulted Zelensky in the Oval Office. You invited and ambushed him. And secondly, look at your own allies in Europe. The European Union is buying more and more Russian energy. Last year, they bought $25 billion of it. That's Russian oil plus gas. $25 billion. It's more than what Europe gave Ukrainian military aid. The aid to Ukraine was $21 billion. The energy payments to Russia were $25 billion. If you think that's absurd, listen to this. Until January this year, 2025, Russian gas was transiting through Ukraine. Massive pipelines run from Russia to Europe. Some of them cross over Ukraine. Until January this year, Kiev was getting paid for this. Almost $800 million annually. I'll repeat that for you. Ukraine was getting paid for allowing Russian gas to transit over its soil. Yet, who is the problem? India. New Delhi has faced similar criticism before too, but those were of a moral nature. Joe Biden's officials would often lecture us. They would appeal to our humanity. It was a problem, but not a deal breaker. You just had to suffer through the fake morality. With Trump, it's different. Despite being a so-called friend, he's drawing red lines for India. We say good luck. Trump's predecessor spent years trying to build goodwill in New Delhi. He's undoing all that hard work, one social media post at a time. So India won't give in to Trump's pressure. It is ready to face short-term pain to secure long-term national interest, and China is taking the same position, it seems. Beijing's trade talks with Washington have stalled. The deadlock is over energy. The United States wants China to stop buying oil from Iran and Russia, but Beijing has refused to comply. Last week, both sides met in Stockholm, China and the United States. The goal was clear: avoid tariffs, end the impasse, and find common ground. But there's still no deal. China has refused to accept Trump's latest demands. Here's what the Chinese side has said. Coercion and pressuring will not achieve anything. China will firmly defend its sovereignty, security, and development interests. China is among the biggest customers for Iran and Russia. It buys almost all of Iran's oil. We're talking about 80 to 90% of Iran's oil exports. They go to China. That's more than 1 million barrels every day. And this oil fuels China's economy. Remember what happened in June this year? The Americans carried out airstrikes in Iran. They attacked Iranian nuclear sites. In response, Iran issued a threat. Its parliament said they will close the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is a very important waterway. It is critical for global energy supplies. About 20% of the world's oil and gas flows through here. A large number of these consignments go to China, which is why China pushed back against Iran's threat. China told Iran to not block the Strait of Hormuz, and it worked. China also buys a lot of oil from Russia. It's the second biggest buyer after India. In April this year, China increased its Russian oil imports by 20%. It bought over 1 million barrels per day. Long story short, these are important relationships for China. Oil supplies from Iran and Russia power China's economy, and it is not going to abandon them because of Donald Trump. In other words, China's stand is similar to India's. But Washington's response is remarkably different. For India, they have sharp public warnings. For China, they have carefully chosen words. Listen to this. The Chinese are tough negotiators. We're tough too. It was led by the vice premier, my counterpart, Julie Fun, who I have great respect for. He is both a statesman, a tough negotiator, and very senior in the leadership. We pushed back on them quite a bit and made our positions known. I believe that we have the makings of a deal. Trump officials say they're close to a deal, but Beijing has not confirmed that. The meeting in Stockholm was supposed to lead to a breakthrough. This was the third round of talks since April. A few months back, both sides had slapped tariffs on each other, tariffs that exceeded 100%. Then in May, there was a breakthrough. American and Chinese officials met in Geneva. They agreed
tariffs have been slapped on each other, tariffs that exceeded 100%. Then in May, there was a breakthrough. American and Chinese officials met in Geneva. They agreed to a 90-day pause. Tariffs were lowered temporarily. The United States dropped duties from 145% to 30%. And China cut levies from 125% to 10%. Now, this 90-day pause is set to expire. The deadline is the 12th of August. What happens after that? The triple-digit tariffs return. And this is where Trump's lack of leverage shows. He is the one who started this. But when China hit back with tariffs and export curbs, Trump rolled back. He slashed the tariffs. He put export controls on hold. He even allowed critical technology to be shared. And last month, Trump gave a major concession. He allowed the sale of NVIDIA's advanced chips to China, the Edge 20 chips. Despite their military potential, despite bipartisan criticism, Trump let China buy these chips. In fact, officials from his last administration have criticized the move. Two of them even wrote a letter. I have a copy with me. This is what it says. We believe this move represents a strategic misstep that endangers the United States' economic and military edge in artificial intelligence, an area increasingly seen as decisive in 21st century global leadership. The letter changed nothing, though. Trump still greenlit the sale of chips. He dialed down the rhetoric. He softened his stance on China, perhaps chasing a deal, perhaps chasing a photo op with Xi Jinping. Either way, it's hit a wall. Trump is staring at yet another deadlock, and China refuses to blink. It must be great to be Donald Trump. No sense of nuance, no idea about context, just a second-grade understanding of everything. Deficit bad, tariffs good, missiles bad, ceasefire good. It's great if you're a 5-year-old, but if you're the United States president, you expect more maturity and understanding. Look at what he did on Friday. Trump announced that he was moving 2 nuclear submarines to, quote, appropriate regions near Russia, and listen to why he did it. Well, we had to do that. We just have to be careful, and a threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate. So I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people. It was such a random announcement. No details on which submarines, no hint on where they were deployed, just some casual nuclear rhetoric on social media. That, too, over comments on the internet. Trump claims he was triggered by Russia's former president. His name is Dmitry Medvedev. Last week he had a message for Trump. The United States president had asked Moscow to end the war by August 8th. But Medvedev hit back. He said ultimatums were a step towards war. Apparently Trump did not like that. He felt the language was threatening. Therefore, he deployed nuclear submarines near Russia. Now, just to be clear, do not fall for this Truth Social post. Chances are the United States always had nuclear submarines in appropriate regions. It's standard deterrence procedure. So the announcement was not a military one. It was a political one. Trump is trying to send a message to Moscow. He's trying to build pressure on Vladimir Putin. Like I said, he set a deadline. Trump wants a ceasefire deal by Friday, this Friday, August 8th. If not, he's threatening major sanctions and tariffs, not just on Russia, but also on countries that trade with Russia. Although Trump himself is not confident it will work, he admitted that Russia is good at avoiding sanctions. What happens on Friday if the deadline comes and Russia has not agreed to a ceasefire? Well, there'll be sanctions, but they seem to be pretty good at avoiding sanctions. You know, they're wily characters, and they're pretty good at avoiding sanctions. So we'll see what happens. So what's the plan then? Trump is sending his top negotiator to Moscow, his special envoy Steve Witkoff. Witkoff is expected to visit on Wednesday or Thursday. The Kremlin suggested that he will meet Putin. Expect him to bring a singular focus on these talks. Actually, scratch that. Witkoff is also talking to Hamas, Israel, and Iran. It's surprising he can keep track of which war he's ending. As for Russia, they're not panicking. They cautioned against Trump's nuclear rhetoric, but they remain open for talks. Naturally, we think that everyone should be very careful with the nuclear rhetoric. We do preserve our commitment to the idea that the preferable way to settle the Ukrainian problem should be reached by political and diplomatic means. And what's happening on the battlefield? Ukraine launched a daring attack over the weekend. They fired dozens of drones into Russia. Some of them struck an oil depot in Sochi. The building erupted into a fireball. This attack was a response to last week. On Thursday, Russia launched a wave of missiles at Ukraine. They mainly struck two cities, Kiev and Mykolaiv. At least 31 people were killed in Kiev. It was the deadliest Russian attack in 1 year. That's the aerial battle. On the ground, Russia continues to advance. They have captured a key city in the east, Chasiv. Both sides fought 18 months to control this city, but last week Russia prevailed. In fact, they're making progress across the front line. It makes you wonder, where is this heading? Is Trump making it worse? He certainly underestimated the challenge. He plunged into this peace campaign with no plan. First, he organized talks with Russia. Then, he cut off aid to Ukraine. Then he restarted aid to Ukraine. Then he gave Russia 50 days to end the war. Later, he cut that to 10 to 12 days. And finally, he set the Friday deadline. Like I said, Donald Trump appears to have no understanding of this conflict. Did he think asking nicely would help? Does he think 2 nuclear submarines will scare Putin? No, they won't. But such reckless moves do reveal a problem. The problem of having a maverick at the wheel. Just think about it. Has any European country deployed nuclear submarines against Russia? Have they threatened Moscow with nukes? No, they haven't. Because despite their support for Ukraine, they have some red lines. With Donald Trump, who knows? Maybe he'll get bored and abandon Ukraine. Maybe he'll get angry and bomb Russia. This ambiguity is a risk for the entire world. Donald Trump is not just surrounded by yes men and women. He's built an entire ecosystem of them. They cheer, they flatter, they validate. So when reality knocks, he simply doesn't answer. Case in point, the United States jobs report for July, only 73,000 jobs were added last month. In the month of July, 73,000 jobs. That's far below projections. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part is a revision. The numbers for the months of May and June were quietly revised. 2,58,000 fewer jobs than initially claimed. A discrepancy of 2,58,000 jobs. This is not a blip. This is a reflection on the United States economy. Now, let's be clear. Jobs data is often revised. It happens under every administration. But this time, it hit a nerve because Trump's entire brand rests on this one claim. I built the greatest economy ever. So when you get a weak jobs report, it becomes more than a statistic. It's a personal insult. And if there's one thing Donald Trump does not take well, it is facts that do not flatter him. So of course, he lashed out. In fact, let me read out from his post on Truth Social. This is what he said. I have directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. In my opinion, today's jobs numbers were rigged in order to make the Republicans and me look bad. So Trump has fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's the agency that releases the jobs report. And why was she fired? Because the United States president says the data is fake. Of course, he's given no evidence for it, which is classic Donald Trump. With the numbers for a long time, but today's we're doing so well. I believe the numbers were phony, just like they were before the election, and there were other times. So, you know what I did? I fired her. And you know what? I did the right thing. But the move has raised questions. For decades, United States economic data was free of political bias. This sacking undermines that credibility. Although Trump officials were quick to justify it, Trump's trade advisor summed it up best. He said, and I'm quoting, "The president is the president." Translation, in America, truth bends to power. So imagine if the revision in the data, so the correction of errors, is 5 times bigger than the number itself. Then that makes you wonder, well, can I believe this number at all? And I think that that's actually something that needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed fast. And it's not a first. This is not Trump's first tango with firing competent people. He did it during his first term too. Although back then there were a few grown-ups in the room, a few officials who pushed back. This time, that guardrail is gone. Trump has nominated a group of diehards. We saw that during the cabinet meeting. It was almost like a fan convention. Officials gushed about Trump's leadership. They raved about his policies. Social media even compared it to North Korea. The officials sounded less like public servants and more like hype men and women echoing every whim, amplifying every impulse. If he says it's raining, they will bring an umbrella to a desert. If he calls gravity a hoax, they will jump off a building to prove him right. And if you think this sounds like a cult, you're not wrong. The dynamics are textbook. Look at the way Trump talks about his White House press secretary, Caroline Light. She's become a star. It's that face. It's that brain. It's those lips, the way they move. They move like she's a machine gun. She's a star. She's a great person, actually. But I don't think anybody has ever had a better press secretary than Caroline. You heard it right. This is what the United States president said. The way those lips move, it's not just creepy. It's workplace harassment wrapped in a compliment. And no one on his team called it out. Not even Caroline Lee herself. Why? Because you can never question Donald Trump. His officials do not challenge him. They echo him, erasing the line between loyalty and servitude. Happy with you? Great job. Thank you very much. So the question now is not whether Trump's White House has become a cult. It does badly look like one. The question is there anyone left to say no? Credits, script, and narration by Palki